Bass fans, it's Ethan Krause with Bass Assets, here with this week's Bass Break informational tip. It has to do with throwing a bladed jig, what I call a pro blade. How to throw them, where to throw them, what gear to use, how to retrieve them, everything, trailers. So if you want to learn more about throwing a bladed jig, or what I call a pro blade, and why I think mine is better than the other guys out on the market, go to YouTube, look up Bass Assets, find the video. I think it'll help you out. I've won a lot of money on these baits. Getting right into the gear that I use a 7'2" to 7'4" rod. 7'6" is the flipping stick, is a little bit too large, too heavy, too cumbersome. 7 foot you can get away with, but I like a little bit larger rod. Medium heavy action, fast tip. I like to throw them on fluorocarbon. I've tried mono, I've tried braid. Nothing seems to work like the fluorocarbon. It seems to work a lot better for me. I can feel the bait, and the reason why is having to do with the retrieve. Most of the time people throw them out and reel them in. You can feel the blades vibrating, and you can feel that coming back to you, and that's all good. Sometimes that catches fish, but probably 80% of the fish that I catch on these baits is with what I call a pop and reel retrieve. And I want to explain that to you. That pop and reel retrieve would be, before I do that, let me tell you about the reel. Use a fast reel. Get yourself a 7'2" to 1 reel. Not because you're reeling the bait in fast, because you're reeling up the slack as that bait's coming towards you. So you need that high-speed reel. Very important to have that. When I do my retrieve, I throw it out. I let it sink down. I start the retrieve to get the line somewhat tight. As soon as you can feel that blade start to vibrate, I'll take it and I'll pop it up like a 1, 2, 3 pop. And you do it pretty aggressively, because when you got 60 yards, 70 yards of line out there, and you do a pop, 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 you're moving it big here, but it's only moving a little bit on, at the bait. When you pop that up, you reel that slack up as you're going down and pointing the rod back down towards the water. And then when you get that down again, you pop it up again and you reel that slack back up. What that high-speed reel allows you to do is to reel that slack up with a semi-slack line. You don't want to be pulling the bait as you're reeling up the slack. You want to be pulling up the slack. If you do this a couple times, you'll get the hang of it and see what I'm talking about. Almost every strike I get, when I pop that line up and I'm reeling it back down, I'm reeling up that slack, I'll feel the tick in the line, and then I set the hook. That's when I have them. What it looks like is that bait is trying to get away, and then it's falling back down. It's getting up and falling back down. So if you haven't tried fishing it like that, I would suggest you try it. I've probably caught more fish doing that on it rather than any other retrieve I've had. Sometimes on rocks, I'll slow crawl them through the rocks. You would be surprised how they don't really get hung up in the rocks like a normal jig would. It's because of that big displacement of that blade right there. It doesn't really allow it to get down in there. So I hope these tips help you out. I hope you'll give it a try. If you want to get one, I think mine are superior to the ones that are out there. Oh, I forgot about the trailer. Trailers I use are a Zoom Super Fluke. I also use a Reaction Innovation with a paddle tail. The Super Fluke I use a majority of the time. The paddle tail style baits I use when I want the bait to stay higher in the water column or move slower. So remember that. That would be in winter. Remember that next time you go out, give it a shot. Give that retrieve a shot. I think it'll help you out. Till next week. Thanks.